Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're looking at a really important question for Mauritius. How is work changing, and what does that mean for our education system here?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it?
It is, and we've got some pretty fascinating sources to dig into. We've got a World Economic Forum report that takes a look at the global picture of future jobs.
Right.
And we've got this interview with Mauritius's Minister of Education laying out his vision for how to prepare.
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be interesting to see how these two connect. So let's jump right in.
Okay.
That World Economic Forum report, the WEF report, paints a pretty, dramatic picture of what's coming. It predicts 170 million new jobs globally by
Wow.
2030.
That's a lot.
It is a huge number. But at the same time, it says 92 million existing jobs
Oh.
could be displaced.
Yeah.
So it's like a net gain, but a massive reshuffling.
Yeah, like a whole new landscape almost.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's where things get really interesting for Mauritius, right? We need to be ready for these changes. What jumped out at you from that WEF report in terms of what's happening globally?
Well, the list of top growing jobs is surprising to say the least. Number one, farm workers.
Farm workers. I was not expecting that.
I know, right? But it makes sense when you think about all the emphasis on sustainability, the green transition,
Oh, yeah.
and Mauritius. We've got a strong agricultural sector, so
Right.
we could actually be in a good position to take advantage of that.
Okay, so that's an interesting twist.
Yeah.
So it's not all just about tech jobs then.
No, not at all.
Oh,
While things like software developer delivery drivers are also high on the list because, all the growth in online shopping automation and all that,
right.
this farm workers thing shows that it's about understanding the bigger forces at play, not just the specific jobs themselves.
So what are those forces? What's driving this massive reshuffling of jobs?
Well, it's a whole bunch of things all happening at once.
Yeah.
You've got the technology that's changing so fast.
Yeah.
You've got populations aging or growing in different parts of the world.
Uh-huh.
People are changing what they want to buy, and then you've got this urgent need to do something about climate change.
It's a lot.
It's all coming together to create a situation we've never really seen before.
And in that situation, what skills are going to be the most valuable?
Well, the WEF report has this pretty shocking statistic. 39% of the core skills that jobs need
Whoa.
are expected to change by 2030.
So that's like more than a third of the entire workforce needing to learn new
Very
things.
much. So what are those skills? Well, obviously anything to do with technology is going to be huge, especially artificial intelligence, AI, and big data.
Right.
But it's not just about being a tech whiz. It's also these so-called human skills.
Okay.
Things like problem solving, critical thinking, creativity, emotional intelligence, resilience, all those things that help people navigate, change, and thrive in a world where things are always in flux.
So it's not enough to just learn a specific job anymore. You need to be adaptable, creative, and resilient.
Exactly.
And this is where I think the Minister of Education's vision for Mauritius comes in. From that interview, it sounds like he's really trying to address these exact challenges.
Yeah, he is. He's pushing for what he calls a human-centered approach to education.
Okay.
He's saying it's not just about memorizing facts. It's about developing well-rounded individuals. And he's putting a big emphasis on the basics, literacy and numeracy right from the start in pre-primary.
I was really intrigued by his idea of a student progress card.
Oh, yeah.
This like lifelong record that would follow a student from pre-primary all the way through their working life. It's pretty innovative.
It is. And it shows that he's thinking about personalized learning paths, not just trying to fit everyone into the same box.
Right. And then there's the fact that he's even considering changing the medium of instruction to Krill Mauritian.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bold move, but it shows he's serious about making education accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. He also talked about trying to move away from that whole rat race mentality in education and promoting a broader range of skills like sports, the arts, even agriculture.
Oh, interesting.
And that fits perfectly with what the WEF is saying about those human skills.
So it sounds like the minister's vision is pretty aligned with these global trends.
Yeah.
But the question is, how do we bridge the gap between the vision and the reality on the ground? How do we actually prepare Mauritian students for this future?
Right, that's the key. And that's what we'll dig into next.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, right? Global shifts, the minister's vision. But what about the actual nuts and bolts? What concrete steps can be taken to get Mauritian students ready for all this?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question. And luckily, we've got some specific things the minister talked about in his interview that give us a clue. One that really stood out to me was the new foundation program for PSC students.
Oh, right, the program for those who don't pass the PSAC or choose not to retake it. It's pretty different from the old extended program, isn't it?
It is, yeah. And it's designed with this future job market in mind. It focuses on three main things: basic literacy and numeracy, ICT skills, and vocational skills.
Okay, so I see the connection there. We
Okay.
were just talking about how vocational skills are becoming more and more important.
Exactly. The program aims to give students hands-on training in areas like technology, hospitality, even agriculture. So they'll be equipped with skills that are actually in demand in those growing sectors.
So it's about giving them a pathway to success, even if the traditional academic route isn't working for them.
Right. It's about having different options, not just one size fits all.
And the minister also mentioned addressing learning difficulties, which seems like another crucial piece of the puzzle.
Absolutely. It's about making sure every student has the support they need to thrive no matter how they learn best or what challenges they might be facing.
Right. Because this new job market is going to demand that people are able to adapt and keep learning their whole lives.
Exactly. So we need to start fostering those qualities from a young age.
Building that resilience and that growth mindset alongside those specific skills. Now, another thing that came up was technology in schools. It feels like there's a bit of tension there between the minister's stance on mobile phones and the need for digital literacy.
Yeah, it's a tough one. On one hand, we want kids to be comfortable using technology and to be digitally literate. But then there's the worry about distractions and making sure they're using technology responsibly.
So how do we strike that balance? How do we make sure students are getting those digital skills without letting technology take over?
It's not about banning technology altogether. It's about using it in a strategic way.
Okay.
The minister was very clear that technology in the classroom needs to have a clear educational purpose.
It needs to be a tool for learning, not a distraction.
Right. But this brings up another issue, access.
Mm.
Not all students have the same access to computers and the internet at home.
That's a really important point. How do we address that digital divide?
It's going to take a multi-pronged approach. We need to make sure schools have the right infrastructure and resources, but we also need to find ways to bridge the gap outside of school hours. Things like community centers, libraries, even mobile technology labs could help provide access to those who need it.
That's a great idea. And it really highlights the fact that getting ready for the future of work isn't just the responsibility of schools.
No, it isn't.
It's going to take a joint effort from the government, businesses, communities.
Exactly. We need to create an environment that supports lifelong learning and provides opportunities for people to upskill and reskill throughout their careers.
And that takes us back to that McKinsey report we mentioned earlier about the potential for productivity growth.
Oh, right.
If we can get this technology adoption and worker retraining, right?
Yeah, they said Mauritius could see a 3% annual productivity growth if we nail this.
That would be huge for our economy. That's a pretty strong argument for investing in education and workforce development.
It is.
But how do we make sure those investments are actually effective? How do we turn these big ideas into real results on the ground?
Well, that's where things get really interesting. It's not just about changing things in schools. It's about a whole shift in mindset across society. We need to start thinking of lifelong learning as a core value. Businesses need to invest in training their employees. The government needs to create policies that encourage innovation and adaptability.
So it's a collective effort. Everyone has a part to play in getting ready for this future of work.
Exactly. It's not just about what happens in the classroom. It's about creating a culture of learning that reaches every part of society.
But how do we make that happen? Where do we even begin? That is the question, isn't it? How do we actually make this happen? This whole culture of lifelong learning. How do we make sure Mauritius is really ready for this future of work?
Well, if I had a crystal ball, I'd tell you. But I think from all this stuff we've talked about today, we can at least pick out a few key things we've learned and maybe some ideas for where to start.
Yeah, let's do a recap. What have we learned about how work is changing and what it means for us here in Mauritius?
Okay, so first thing, the global job market, it's like a whole different ballgame now. Automation, the whole green transition, people moving around and populations changing, all these big forces are reshaping everything, creating new opportunities, but also challenges.
And it's happening so fast. Like that WEF report we talked about.
Yeah.
It's predicting a massive shift in jobs in just the next few years.
It's not just about certain jobs disappearing either. It's about the skills you need to succeed changing fast.
Okay.
And it's not just about knowing how to use the latest tech either. It's those human skills we were talking about.
Right.
Critical thinking, problem solving, being able to adapt, working well with others. Those are going to be the things that employers are looking for in every industry.
Which brings us to our second big takeaway. Education needs to catch up.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just memorize facts anymore. We've got to give students the skills and the mindset they need to thrive in this kind of world that's always changing.
And from what we've heard, the Minister of Education gets it. He seems to be on the right track with this whole human-centered approach he's talking about, focusing on the basics, personalized learning, and even maybe using Creole Mauritian.
Right. And then there's those specific things he's pushing for, like that foundation program for PSEC students, where they're getting vocational training along with the traditional academic stuff.
Yeah, that emphasis on vocational skills is super important. It's about giving kids different options for success and teaching them practical things that they can actually use in the real world.
And we talked about how important it is to help kids who are struggling with learning,
Yeah.
to make sure every student has the support they need to do well, no matter their learning style or what challenges they might be facing.
Exactly. It's about building resilience and that growth mindset, so kids are ready to adapt and keep learning their whole lives.
But it's not just about what happens in school. We talk about how technology is a big part of all this, too. Finding that balance between digital literacy and making sure kids are using technology responsibly, that's key.
And then there's the issue of access.
Right.
Not all kids have the same opportunities when it comes to technology.
So making sure everyone has a chance to develop those digital skills no matter their background, that's a big challenge.
It is. It's going to take a lot of effort from everyone to get this right.
So it's not just on the schools. It's on businesses, the government communities. It's a team effort to make sure Mauritius is ready for this future of work.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And if we get it right, the payoff could be huge.
Yeah.
Remember that McKinsey report talking about how much productivity could grow if we nail this technology adoption and worker retraining thing?
Yeah, 3% a year. That'd be massive for Mauritius.
So yeah, the stakes are high. But there's a real opportunity here. What's clear is that getting ready for this future of work, it's not just about making a few changes here and there. It's about a whole new way of thinking, a commitment to lifelong learning from everyone.
Exactly. It has to be a value that's shared across society.
So where do we start? I guess it starts with each of us.
It does.
Yeah.
Taking charge of our own learning, being open to new things, and looking for ways to grow.
Being curious,
Yeah.
adaptable, resilient, realizing that the world of work is constantly changing and we need to change with it.
And creating that culture of learning everywhere, in schools, in businesses, everywhere.
If we can do that, then Mauritius will be in a great position to not just survive, but actually thrive in this future of work.
That's the goal.
Well, that was a really interesting conversation. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground.
We did.
Global trends, challenges, opportunities. It's clear that the future of work in Mauritius is really in our hands.
It is.
So what do you think? Let's
What do
keep
I
this
think?
conversation going. Share your thoughts and be a part of shaping this future.
The future isn't something that just happens to us. We make it happen.
That's a great point. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.
My pleasure.
We'll be back next time with another deep dive into something fascinating. See you then.